I was recently contacted by Vangoa Music and asked if I'd be interested in taking a look at a pedal board for the channel. I try to be really careful with Guitar Collector Guy so as not to take paid evaluations of products. The only way I'll take a product for review is if I can provide my own unfiltered opinion about the product I'm looking at without any obligation. I took a look at the pedal board online first to see what the general opinion of the product was in the reviews buyers had provided and how the company handled support. I read all of the reviews on Amazon from the good to the not so good. Overwhelmingly, the feedback was really good. I was impressed with what I read, so I agreed to take a look at the board. About a month later, the box showed up, and I found I had been sent the Vangoa Guitar Pedal Board with isolated power supply and in the medium size of 18 inches by 13.5 inches. The board comes well packaged and has the board, power cables, Velcro, case, AC power cord, and manual in the box. I have several other pedal boards, and the first thing I note about the Vangoa board is that it is a single piece of aluminum that has been bent to take the form of the pedal board, not separate pieces that are all attached via welding or screws. The bars that go across the board that you place your pedals on are much wider than my other boards. One of the complaints I have with my other boards is the bars are narrow, and as a result, there's less contact with the bottom of the pedal with the Velcro. Because of this, my pedals kind of wobble and just, to me, are not very secure. The bars of the Vangoa board are about 2¼ inches wide, which seems to be pretty cool. There's a handy sheet that shows you the common ways you can wire the board and the benefits and cons of each approach. I took a look at this and picked an approach before assembling my pedals on the board. I laid out 10 of my pedals on the board of varying sizes. I saw a picture on the Vangoa website that showed the same board with 14 pedals installed. In the literature, they say that you can install 16 small pedals or 13 full-size pedals or a combination thereof. They showed that since the bars are wider, you can actually install pedals going in both directions, across multiple bars or sideways on a single bar. I removed the rubber legs on the bottoms of any of my pedals that I had not installed on a board already, that still had them before putting Velcro on the bottom of the pedal. The Velcro is as wide as the bars or close to it and are pre-cut in the lengths of the actual bars. A note about the Velcro that's supplied with a board. I've never experienced Velcro that holds as well as this stuff. I mean that as a compliment and kind of also not as a compliment. It holds so well that you need to be careful when putting pedals on the board, because then when you try to pry them off, it can actually be somewhat of a challenge. It takes some effort to break the contact between the male and female sheets of Velcro once attached. Next, I connected all of the pedals to the onboard power supply. There are 12 power connections. If you need more than 12, you can buy daisy chain power cables so as to have more than one pedal per outlet. For the number of pedals that I was installing, 10, the number of outlets and power cables supplied was just fine. I used all 6 of the 9-volt 300 milliamp outlets and all 4 of the 9-volt 500 milliamp outlets. I did not use the single 12-volt 500 milliamp or 18-volt 300 milliamp outlets. The 300 milliamp and 500 milliamp 9-volt outlets will cover most of the pedals that are out there today. After connecting power, I set about installing patch cables between each of my pedals. I ran a longer cable then from the output of the far left pedal on the bottom bar to the input of the far right pedal on the top bars. I then ran my last pedal's output to the input on the back of the board. Once I was done, I powered up and everything worked. When I set the board on the floor near my amp, I pulled the 2 legs down so the board is at a slight angle. I ran a cable from the output on the back of the board to the input of my amp, and then I ran my guitar's cable from my guitar to my first pedal in the chain's input. I've been using the board for now about 2 weeks before writing the script for this video. I wanted to get it a chance of really kind of giving it a run, and here are my observations. The power supply on board is very quiet. I do not notice any unwanted noise or interference. Having an onboard power supply is a great feature, and I think what this board is well designed and executed. The board seems to be very sturdy. I think the board is a very well designed board, with it being a single rigid piece of thick aircraft aluminum. The only weak point I can see in the design potentially is the strength of the legs. Only time will tell, and continued use. The bag can get a little crowded when you put the board fully loaded with power cables and external audio cables. The LED-based audio level indicator is a cool looking thing to have on the board, but to be honest with you, I've yet to really figure out the why it is there and meaning its useful purpose. The retail price of $117 for this specific model falls into the budget-friendly category of pricing for a pedal board with an integrated and isolated onboard power supply on basically of this board size. Overall, I would say for what you're paying compared to what you get, you're getting a really well-made piece of equipment, and I think it's a great value. One good thing to note is that they primarily basically sell through Amazon. So you know that you have a great return policy and can trust you'll be covered if you need to return the board. I've supplied links in the top of the comments that will get you to the German, UK, and US Amazon sites where you can look at 2 different sizes of this board.